The Invisible Man in the Shadows. The great research station floated in deep space like a giant metal city, full of glowing towers, humming machines, and alien voices echoing in every corridor. Soldiers in shining armor walked with pride. Scientists carried glowing data tablets, and officers barked orders as if the entire galaxy depended on them. Yet, in the middle of all this greatness, there was one man no one noticed. He pushed a simple cleaning cart, with rags and brushes rattling inside. His uniform was gray, his head bent low, and his hands rough from endless work. He was a janitor, a single dad, a human among aliens. The officers called him the Shadow Man, because he was always there but never seen. Every day he cleaned the reactor halls, the control decks, and the laboratories. He wiped alien footprints from shining floors, scrubbed spilled chemicals, and polished the windows that looked out into the stars. When he passed by, aliens whispered and laughed. They mocked him quietly. Look, the human cleaner. He cannot fight. He cannot think. He is nothing but a broom in his hand. He heard the laughter, but he never answered. His silence made them laugh harder. Yet deep inside he carried a storm. His daughter was his world, a little girl with bright eyes, small hands, and a voice that gave him strength. She lived with him in the lower quarters of the station, where the workers stayed. She asked him many times, "Papa, why do they laugh at you?" And every time he only smiled and said, "Because they do not know us yet." But in truth, he felt the sting of their words. Every night, after putting his daughter to sleep, he opened an old notebook. Its pages were filled with reactor sketches, emergency notes, and warnings written by his own hand. Years ago, before becoming a janitor, he had been a low-level technician in human defense labs. He knew about reactors, cooling systems, and meltdown dangers. He was not just a cleaner. He was a man who once studied, observed, and remembered, but no one here cared about that. To them, he was invisible. That evening, as he entered the main reactor chamber with his mop and bucket, he felt a strange vibration beneath the floor. The machines hummed louder than usual. The coolant pipes hissed with an irregular sound. His sharp eyes noticed a faint red glow pulsing. From the main reactor walls, he paused, staring at it. His instincts whispered, "This is wrong. Something is unstable." He placed his hand on the steel railing and felt the heat rising more than it should. A group of alien scientists walked past him, their robes flowing and their voices sharp. He gathered his courage and spoke. "Excuse me, the reactor walls are glowing. I think the coolant system is—" But before he could finish, they cut him off with laughter. One scientist smirked. "Do you think a janitor understands reactors?" Another scoffed. "Go clean your floors, human. Leave science to real minds." His words drowned under their arrogance. They walked away, leaving him alone. He stood in silence, gripping the handle of his mop. His heart pounded. He wanted to shout, to warn them, but he knew they would never listen. To them, he was just a shadow in the corner. He continued to clean, but his eyes never left the reactor glow. His mind raced back to the notebook hidden in his room, to the diagrams he once studied. The heat is rising faster than it should. If they do not act, the core will destabilize. Hours passed. The station lights flickered once, then steadied again. No one else noticed. The officers walked with pride, the scientists laughed in their chambers, and the soldiers sharpened their weapons, but he saw everything. He whispered to himself, "They don't see it. They don't feel it. But I do." Later that night, when he returned to the lower quarters, his daughter ran to him, hugging his legs. He smiled, but his mind was heavy. He tucked her into bed, kissed her forehead, and when she fell asleep, he opened his notebook again. He wrote quickly, his hand trembling. Warning signs: reactor core glow increasing, coolant pipes unstable, vibration stronger. His eyes darkened. His heart whispered what no one wanted to hear. A meltdown is coming. The station slept. The officers dreamed of glory. The aliens rested without fear. But one man sat in the shadows, eyes awake, notebook open. He was just a janitor in their eyes, but only he saw the danger rising. And when the alarms finally screamed, when chaos would break loose, The galaxy would learn the truth, that the invisible man in the shadows was not just a janitor, he was the only one who could save them all. Echoes of a forgotten past. The night inside the station was never truly dark. Stars shone beyond the windows, machines hummed endlessly, and neon lights glowed along the long metal corridors. But in his small room, the janitor sat alone. His daughter slept peacefully beside him, holding her toy tightly, unaware of the storm rising outside. He stared at his old notebook. Its edges were worn, pages filled with tiny sketches of reactors, warning notes, and calculations. Only he seemed to understand. His hand moved slowly. Tracing the drawing of a coolant pipe, he remembered the sound he had heard earlier, the hiss that didn't belong. Memories came back to him. Memories he had buried long ago, years before. He was not just a cleaner. He was a technician in the early human defense labs on Earth. He was young then, full of ideas. He spent his days working around machines, learning how reactors breathed, and how a single mistake could cause disaster. He wasn't a genius, not a famous scientist, but he was patient, careful, and he paid attention when others didn't. It was during those years he had learned something most people ignored. Reactors had a rhythm, like a beating heart. If the rhythm broke, the machine screamed in silence before the world heard the alarm, but that life ended. The war with alien raiders destroyed his home city. His wife was caught in the flames, and he was left with nothing but his daughter. Broken and lost, he took the only job left for him, janitor. And now here he was, mocked by aliens, ignored by officers, but still carrying all the knowledge in his mind. That same night, while others slept, he walked quietly back into the reactor chamber. His cleaning badge allowed him entry where others thought he was harmless. He moved slowly, pretending to check the floor, but his eyes were sharp, watching every pipe, every flicker, every spark. The reactor walls pulsed faintly, red streaks spreading like veins of fire. He touched the railing again and felt the vibration stronger than before. His notebook flashed in his memory, the warnings he had written. His heart whispered, "They don't believe you, but you know the truth." Suddenly, a voice cut through the silence. "Human, what are you doing here at this hour?" It was an alien officer, tall and armored. His eyes narrowed, suspicion on his face. The janitor lowered his head quickly. "I was cleaning the lower deck. I thought I should check this area too." The officer scoffed. "As if dirt matters. Here you are wasting time. Go before I report you." The janitor bowed slightly and left, but not before taking one last glance at the reactor glow. His chest tightened. He could feel it. The machine was ticking toward disaster. The next day, the alien scientists laughed again. They held a meeting inside the control chamber, speaking about their perfect design and flawless system. He stood at the back, quietly emptying trash bins, listening as they dismissed even the smallest risks. Finally, he spoke, voice soft but steady. "The coolant pipes are not balanced. The reactor walls are glowing wrong. If you don't adjust the flow." The room burst with laughter. One scientist waved a hand. "Did you hear him? The janitor teaches us reactors." Another mocked. "Maybe he will save the galaxy with his mop." The commander, seated at the head, frowned at the noise. He looked at the janitor, eyes cold. "Human, remember your place. You are here to clean, not to speak. Leave at once." The janitor lowered his gaze, his hands trembling with anger. He wanted to scream, to warn them of the danger, but for his daughter's sake, he stayed silent. He could not risk being thrown out of the station. That evening, he returned to his room. His daughter sat beside him, curious eyes watching. "Papa, why do they always laugh at you?" He paused, looking at her. Her small hands touched his rough fingers. He whispered, "Because sometimes people cannot see the truth until it burns them. But when that time comes, we must be ready." She tilted her head. "Ready for what?" He smiled faintly, though his heart was heavy. "Ready to save them, even if they don't believe in us." The words hung in the air like a shadow. Hours later, as silence fell across the station, a small tremor shook the reactor halls. Barely noticeable, just a whisper under the machines, but he felt it, far away in his room. His eyes snapped open. He sat up, heart pounding. He could feel the rhythm breaking. He grabbed his notebook and wrote quickly, "The countdown has begun." The invisible man in the shadows knew something no one else did. He knew the reactor's heart was cracking. He knew time was running out. And soon, the galaxy would learn that the man they mocked was the only one standing between them and destruction. The meltdown countdown begins. The day started like every other. The officers walked with pride through the halls. The alien scientists spoke loudly about their perfect calculations, and the soldiers trained in the arena. But deep inside the reactor chamber, something dark and silent was waking. The janitor walked slowly, pushing his cart. His head was lowered, but his eyes stayed sharp. He felt it in the air. The vibration was stronger. The metal floor beneath his boots carried a pulse, irregular and heavy. It was the same feeling he remembered from years ago in the human labs, the moment just before a system collapse. He stopped near the coolant pipes, listening closely. A faint hiss, louder now, almost like a dying breath. His heart raced. He knew it. The reactor was unstable. Suddenly, the entire station shook. A deep rumble echoed through the walls. The lights flickered once, then again. Alarm stayed silent. But his instincts screamed. He rushed forward, pressing his hand against the reactor wall. It burned hotter than before. His eyes widened. This is it. The countdown has begun. Before he could move, a piercing alarm shattered the silence. A sharp, metallic voice boomed through the station speakers. "Warning! Reactor core instability detected. Core temperature rising beyond safe levels." The station erupted into chaos. Soldiers dropped their drills. Scientists ran toward the control chamber, and officers shouted orders that no one followed. The janitor stood frozen for a moment, watching the storm unfold. Everyone who mocked him was now screaming in fear. Papers flew. Machines beeped in panic. The perfect order of the station broke apart in seconds. Inside the control chamber, alien scientists surrounded glowing screens. Their hands shook as they tapped frantically. The commander barked, "Stabilize it! Lower the heat!" But the reactor ignored their commands. Its glow turned brighter, red veins spreading across its metal shell like cracks of fire. The hum became a roar. The janitor stepped forward, voice firm. "The coolant lines are blocked. You must vent them manually." All heads turned toward him. For a second, silence. Then the laughter came again, desperate, cruel. A janitor giving orders? One scientist spat, "Get him out of here." Two soldiers grabbed his arms, but he didn't resist. His voice cut through their anger, steady and sharp. "If you don't vent it now, the core will melt in less than 10 minutes. You will lose everything." The soldiers hesitated. The commander's eyes narrowed. The word sounded true, too precise to be random still. Arrogance won. The commander shouted, "Throw him out. He knows nothing." The janitor was pushed back, his cart clattering against the wall. His chest burned with rage. But deeper inside, fear twisted his heart. They are blind. They are going to kill us all. The alarms grew louder. Red lights flashed across every corridor. The station's voice screamed again. "Critical failure approaching. Reactor core breach in 8 minutes." Panic spread. Scientists shouted numbers they didn't understand. Soldiers ran in circles and officers argued. The great minds of the galaxy, powerless before the heart of the machine. The janitor's eyes locked on the reactor chamber doors. Smoke leaked from the cracks. Heat rolled through the air. His notebook flashed in his memory. Every note, every drawing, every warning. He knew what had to be done, but stepping forward meant more than danger. It meant risking his life. If the core melted, there would be no escape. But then his daughter's face filled his mind, her small voice whispering, "Papa, why do they laugh at you?" He clenched his fists. His fear turned into steel. He whispered to himself, "For her, I will not run." He broke free from the soldiers holding him and sprinted toward the chamber doors. Shouts rang behind him, "Stop him!" But their voices drowned under the alarms. Smoke filled the corridor as the doors slid open. The heat struck him like fire. His skin burned. Sweat poured down his face. But he kept moving. Inside, the reactor glowed like a red sun, sparks bursting from broken pipes. Coolant hissed wildly, spilling across the floor. The countdown voice echoed. Reactor breach in 5 minutes. His hands shook, but his mind was clear. Manual override. Coolant flood. Vent the excess pressure. The steps burned into his memory years ago returned like a ghost. Behind the glass wall, the aliens watched in shock. Their mouths opened, but no words came. They saw the janitor move with purpose, his hands flying across control panels, pulling levers they had ignored, twisting valves no one dared to touch. Every second felt like an eternity. Sparks rained from above, metal groaned. The roar of the reactor shook his bones, yet he did not stop. The aliens finally realized the truth. This man, the one they mocked, was the only one who understood the heartbeat of the reactor. The countdown continued. 4 minutes, 3 minutes. His burned hands gripped the last valve. His vision blurred from smoke. His lungs screamed for air. Still, he pulled with all his strength. The coolant surged through the pipes with a violent rush. The reactor roared louder, brighter, as if fighting back. Then, silence. The glow dimmed slightly. The roar lowered. The system hesitated between life and death. Behind the glass, every eye stayed fixed on the janitor, waiting to see if the Shadow Man would succeed. One father against the fire. The chamber roared like a beast in pain. Heat pressed against the janitor's skin, burning his arms and face. Smoke wrapped around him, choking every breath. The reactor glowed in the center like a rising sun. Trembling, unstable, and angry, the alarm screamed again. Warning! Reactor core breach in 2 minutes. Outside the glass wall, alien scientists and officers pounded on controls they didn't understand. Their faces were pale with fear. Their voices overlapped. It's too late. We cannot stop it. The human will die inside. But the janitor did not hear them, or maybe he chose not to. His focus was locked on the reactor's heart. He had studied its rhythm, its breathing. He knew the exact point where it would break, and the only way to heal it. His burned hands gripped the manual override lever. It was stuck, rusted in place. The heat made it harder. His muscles trembled. He thought of giving up, just for a second, but then his daughter's face filled his mind. Her voice soft and innocent. Papa, why did they laugh at you? He growled through his teeth. They will never laugh again. And he pulled with all his strength. The lever screeched. Sparks burst. His skin tore as metal cut his palm, but finally it moved. The coolant flooded into the chamber pipes. Steam hissed through the air like 1,000 snakes. The reactor screamed louder, the glow flaring as if fighting back. The station shook violently. Aliens outside grabbed onto rails to keep from falling. The countdown voice roared, 1 minute to core breach. He stumbled forward, coughing. His vision blurred. His legs felt heavy as iron, yet he forced himself to keep moving. He reached the secondary valve. A massive wheel stuck to the reactor's side. He wrapped both arms around it and turned. His muscles screamed, his skin burned, but he did not stop. The wheel finally gave way with a metallic crack. A surge of pressure released. Coolant rushed through the pipes. Steam exploded upward, covering him completely. The aliens outside gasped. Many thought he was gone, swallowed by the boiling mist. But then, through the smoke, he appeared, bent, broken, but still moving. His face blackened with soot, his clothes torn, blood running down his arms. Yet his eyes still carried fire. The countdown continued. 30 seconds. 25 seconds. He staggered to the final control panel. Its screen flickered with red warnings. He slammed his burned hand against the override keys, remembering every step from his old days as a technician. Sequence override, manual flood, core release. The system resisted, sparks leaping from the console, but he pressed on, ignoring the pain, ignoring the screams of his body. His finger hit the last command. A deep rumble filled the chamber. The reactor pulsed violently, then released a thunderous roar. The coolant burst into every pipe at once, filling the system with a chilling rush. The glow dimmed, slowly at first, then faster. The red cracks shrank. The roar softened. The heartbeat of the machine returned to rhythm. Outside, silence fell. Every alien froze, eyes wide, watching as the impossible happened. The human janitor, the one they mocked, the one they ignored, had faced the fire and bent it back. The countdown voice faded. Reactor core stabilized. Danger level reduced. System safe. The alarm stopped. The station grew quiet. Only the hiss of steam and the crackle of cooling metal remained. The janitor collapsed to his knees, coughing violently. His lungs burned with every breath, his arms shook. His body begged him to stop, but his eyes lifted to the reactor, now glowing softly, calm once again. Through the glass wall, the aliens stared at him. Some whispered in shock, some lowered their heads in shame. The commander himself stepped back, speechless. The janitor tried to stand, his legs trembling. He leaned against the console for support, his voice cracked but steady. "It's safe. I bought you time." He thought of his daughter, waiting in the lower quarters. Her smile, her hug, the reason he refused to give up. He whispered to himself, "I kept my promise." The glass door opened with a hiss. Smoke spilled into the corridor. The soldiers rushed in but did not touch him. They looked at him differently now, not as a shadow but as something greater. The alien commander stepped forward, eyes filled with disbelief and something almost like respect. "You, a human janitor. You stopped a reactor meltdown in seconds." His voice trembled. "How?" The janitor lifted his burned hand slowly, showing the scars of his fight. He answered in a whisper, "Because when everyone else laughed, I listened to the machine. And because I had something greater than fear, I had my daughter." The silence that followed was heavy. Every alien in the room felt it. The truth they had ignored now stood before them, broken but unshaken. The man they mocked was not just a cleaner, not just a shadow. He was a father who carried the strength of humanity, and in that moment, they realized the galaxy had underestimated humans for too long. The hero they never saw coming, and the chamber was silent now. The great alarms that once screamed had gone quiet. The reactor no longer glowed with deadly fire. Instead, it hummed with a calm, steady rhythm. Safe once more, but the man who saved it knelt on the metal floor. His arms were burned, his chest heaved with every breath, and his clothes were blackened with soot. He looked like a broken shadow, but to the galaxy, he was no longer invisible. The aliens who once laughed at him stood frozen, staring. The scientists who mocked his words were speechless. The soldiers who shoved him away lowered their eyes in shame. Even the commander who once ordered his silence now could not find words. Finally, the silence broke. A scientist whispered, voice trembling, "He saved us." Another followed. "A janitor stopped the meltdown." The words spread through the chamber like fire. Aliens whispered to each other, disbelief turning into awe. They looked at the man they once called useless, and now saw something else, something terrifying, something powerful. The janitor slowly pushed himself up. His legs shook, but he refused to fall. He turned toward them, his voice hoarse but steady. "I told you the signs were there. You didn't listen. You never listened to humans." The commander stepped forward. His armor gleamed under the dim lights, but his pride seemed smaller now. He looked into the janitor's eyes and said, "You were right. We mocked you. We ignored you. But in the end, you saved us all." For a moment, respect shone in his alien eyes. Then, like a ritual, he lowered his head slightly, a gesture of honor. The entire chamber followed, dozens of aliens bowing toward the man they once scorned. The janitor stood in silence. His chest rose and fell. He never wanted glory, never asked for recognition. He only wanted to keep his daughter safe. But in that moment, he realized something bigger had happened. The galaxy had seen the truth about humanity. The doors slid open and a small figure rushed in. His daughter, her eyes wide with fear and tears. Soldiers tried to stop her, but she ran past them. "Papa," she cried. Her tiny arms wrapped around his waist, ignoring the burns, ignoring the soot. She clung to him as if she would never let go. He bent down slowly, his body aching, and hugged her back. His voice broke. "I'm here, little one. I'm here." The soldiers and officers watched in silence. Some felt their chests tighten at the sight. The same man they once mocked was not only a savior, he was a father who fought through fire for love. The commander cleared his throat, his voice heavy. "This station will remember your name, human. The galaxy will remember this day." But the janitor shook his head. "I don't want a name carved in stone. I don't need medals or banners. I only need my daughter safe." His words struck deeper than any speech. The aliens who believed humans were weak now saw strength that no weapon or machine could create. The strength of love, of sacrifice, of endurance. One young officer whispered to another, "If one human janitor can do this, what else are they capable of?" The thought spread like lightning. Fear mixed with respect in their eyes. Humanity, once treated as weak, now stood taller in their minds. The invisible man had forced them to see the truth. Later, as the station repaired itself, the janitor returned to his quarters with his daughter. His steps were heavy, his hands wrapped in bandages, but his heart was light. His daughter looked up at him and asked, "Papa, will they laugh at you again?" He smiled faintly, brushing her hair back. "No, little one, not after tonight." She hugged him tightly, and for the first time in years, he felt seen, not by aliens, not by officers, but by the universe itself. Far above, reports spread through the galaxy. Stories traveled faster than light. A human janitor stopped a reactor meltdown in seconds. Some dismissed it as rumor, but many believed. Fear stirred in alien hearts. They realized that if even the weakest human could rise in the darkest moment, then humanity as a whole was far more dangerous than they ever imagined. In the quiet of his small room, the janitor closed his notebook for the last time. He no longer needed to write warnings no one would read. He had proven his worth, not with words, but with action. He sat beside his daughter, watching her drift to sleep. The station outside was safe, the galaxy whispering his story. But to him, it was simple. He was just a father who refused to let the fire take everything away. And so, the legend of the single dad janitor was born, not in books, not in history scrolls, but in the hearts of those who witnessed the impossible. The man they mocked became the hero they never saw coming.